And going into business, I was like, surely, if I can create a system, if I can create a service that changes people's lives with consistency, that will be enough. That will be all that it
Mm.
takes for me to show up in the world and to have a successful business.
I believe in you, me, you, me, you, me, you, me, yeah. I believe in you, me, you, me, you, me.
Jordan, my friend, welcome to Your Problem May Not Be What You Think It Is.
Thank you so much for having me, Gabs. I'm super excited to be here.
If you were to start to articulate what the problem is and where you are right now with that problem, how would you describe it?
The issue is not that I don't have something that works, it's that I can't seem to get people to be interested in it. Had a lady come in, she'd been thrown up for 5 years, been hospitalized. This all came from her anxiety. She was on medication, she'd been to therapy, she'd been to counseling. In less than 6 weeks, she's now back working full time when she was off from work. She's no longer vomiting, she's sleeping through the night, she's no longer stuck in panic. That is something that is valuable, but I can't seem to bridge that gap between here's what I have, here's what you need, and let's connect. It's interesting for me in my own introspection that I have these dreams and aspirations to change millions of lives. And I think that I also have the capacity to do it. And yet I also am then okay with, only helping like one or two people a month.
This is a place that I was in myself, so guys, a little bit of background. Jordan and I connected because we both signed up to a coaching program which was really designed to teach us how to create clients. So that's how we met. So Jordan, that I can resonate. Like you saw
Mm-hmm.
some of my videos early on in that program where I was just like, oh, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So you've got something that works. It's a beautiful story about that woman. And I suffer from anxiety, so I know what it's like to be able to transform it. So you've got a proven method, it works, but you're really challenged with enabling people to see that and enabling them to come in and join your program. And even though you're saying, I want to transform the world, you're watching yourself working with one or two clients and being okay with that.
Yep.
So let's just dig in a little bit more with this idea of being okay with one or two clients. Like, how do you know that you're okay with it?
There's not this burning action that I'm also familiar with from myself. Um, I have done things I'm very proud of, and what I know that if I want something, I will work very hard to make that happen. Um, for example, whether like looking at myself physically, I've trained myself quite extensively physically,
Mm.
and it comes from this place where not taking action and not getting the results is not even on the picture. Like that, it's just
Mm.
that does not exist, and that permeates most of my life. And I'm not sure why, when it comes to business, I have one client and I'm like, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. This is fine. It would be
Yeah.
like, I'm relating it to the gym again. It'd be like I go to the gym, I grab a 3 pound dumbbell, and I'm like, yes, this is all that I need to do ever. Perfect.
It's so great that we've already stepped into working with analogy, because I find this a really powerful place. So let's keep playing with this analogy.
Sure.
So what would you say? Like you're so clear that you wouldn't just go to the gym with that 3 pound dumbbell and lift it. So how do you know that you just absolutely wouldn't do that?
Um, well, I think it's that one is that experience shows me that, and I have the tangible proof that that is not what I would do. The other is that I understand that that would not lead me to the results that I'm looking for.
Mm.
And yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do it. And I tend, actually, this is an important part of my own psychology, is I don't do things that don't make sense to me. If someone gives me instruction and I don't agree with it, this caused me a lot of problems in school. I just no.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. So there, are you happy for me to call that stubbornness? I'm
Sure.
not using that word in a judgmental way, but simply from, just from the way it's defined, it's like just a refusal. So there's a stubbornness, which is like, I don't get why I do that. I don't understand it, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
We've also got, with the gym, you said experience and tangible proof. You also talked about, you understand that lifting that 3-pound dumbbell is not going to bring you the results that you want. So let's now switch over to creating clients and being in business.
Mm-hmm.
So with the gym, you've got something to measure yourself against. You know exactly what needs to be done to give muscles size, to create fitness. So how clear are you when it comes to your business? How clear are you with exactly the steps that you need to take to bring the results that you want?
I am not clear, which is also frustrating for me because I've taken a number of courses to get clear, and yet I'm still left with why I'm doing, at least I think I'm doing what I'm being told to do. There's always the
Mm.
possibility that I'm not, and that I'm, sticking the stick in my own spokes and not letting the wheels move. But um, I'm not clear. Like, I know a bunch of different things. Again, it was the analogy. So I used to be a personal trainer as well, and a lot of people come into the gym and they are familiar with, like, the treadmill and stuff, and they come in and they just stick to the things that they kind of know. Um, and that, they've seen other people lift the weights, but it just doesn't seem to click for them. And I feel like as though I'm in that place. I've seen the tactics, but it's not clicking internally with me, where there's this knowing of,
Mm.
this clarity of, here
Mm.
is what I must do.
And it's interesting because you caught yourself. You said, I've taken a bunch of courses, and then you were about to say, and I've done, and like what I think you were about to say is like, I've done what I've been taught, but you then paused and said, at least I think I've done.
Mm-hmm.
So do you see, you weren't like, because you're an authentic person, there was that sort of conflict there. You weren't actually able to finish that sentence. So I'm getting a sense that there's a part of you that's like, I probably haven't done what I've been taught. But then you've gone on to say there wasn't that click. And that comes back to the stubbornness, which is like, why am I doing this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's go back to the analogy. You're in the gym. Say, let's give you your personal trainer hat. And I come in and I'm like, Jordan, I've done, listen, I'm here. I'm here kind of unwillingly. Like, I want health. I do. But I haven't been doing what I need to do for health. I've done a bunch of classes and here I am. So what would you say to someone who's like, I've done a bunch of classes, but I'm not getting the results?
Hmm. I think I would just ask why. Like, there's still a lack of clarity as to why the results aren't happening. Okay, so someone's showing up for the classes, it's like they're going through the motions, but it's still not happening. And there's ultimately always a reason for that, right? It's like, it doesn't just magically not happen. There is a reason. And we'd have to get clear on, okay, but what is actually happening then?
Yeah. And I like what you said about it doesn't magically not happen. Okay. Like, I think that phrase is really powerful. And I'm wondering, when it comes to you creating clients, if there's any part of you that thinks there's this kind of magical, maybe it's just not going to happen for me. Like, does that resonate at all with you?
I think um, the experience that I've been through has fed that thought process. Um, it feels like the last couple of years, it feels like, you know, a fly is trying to get out the window and it just keeps smacking its head against the window, and you're like, what are you doing? The opening is literally right there. I
Yeah.
feel like I've been the fly.
Yeah.
And so the experience of just constantly hitting this wall has shown me like maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. Maybe there's some reason that I can't achieve this. And then at the same time, I look at that. I'm like, that's utter keep it PG. That is utter nonsense. And yeah,
Okay, so we're getting a sense that there is a little voice that's like, maybe this isn't for me. And, for you, you're a mindset coach, it isn't enough to just say to that voice, BS.
yeah,
There has to be that work. So we now know there's a little voice that's like, maybe it's not for you. You get a sense that you're like the fly, you're trying to fly through the glass, even though you have a sense that, just a few inches away is an open window. So I want to come back. You said that you've taken a number of courses, but you also talked about the absence of that click.
yes.
So tell me a little bit more about how you've experienced the absence of that click and how that might be affecting you.
It feels like I've just been told to do a bunch of assignments that like did not give me any actual results. And then I just got frustrated and I was like, well, I'm here to do the thing that you're telling me to do. I do it and then nothing. And I think that there's likely historically been quite a bit of fear in doing it, likely tied into self-worth and these important concepts that probably prevent me from showing up with the right energy to do something with the right from the right internal place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can I
did that answer the
pause? Because there
question?
was something I noticed as well, Jordan. So you talked about the assignments and you talked about the action that the assignments required. And at the moment that you were talking about the action, you looked down. So I wanted to just lovingly challenge you. Okay. If someone comes to the gym and they do weights, one session a week for a few weeks, and then they stop and then they say, why don't I have a six pack? It's a pretty dumb question.
It is.
So you know what it takes to get to a level of fitness. So if you imagine the level of fitness that you require with your business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in that moment when you looked down, did you feel that you had put in that level of effort with the specific actions required? Or do you sense that maybe that fear or that self-worth crept in and prevented you taking the amount or the level of action that you know is required to create a level of fitness or a level of muscle, if we're still using that analogy?
Mm-hmm. I definitely, the fear definitely crept in. And so it's like this place of fear that I'm looking to move away from, move towards rather this place of abundance. I think that this is a very integral point. Moving towards this place of abundance, but then I start to take the actions and I don't get any positive feedback from it, as in it feels like when we start doing it, there's a lack of clarity around the effectiveness of it. And so I do it, but I feel like I'm, instead of, it feels like I'm just kind of splashing in the water instead of effectively swimming. I know I'm kind of jumping analogies here, but it feels like I'm just splashing around and being like, well, where are my results? I'm not really staying afloat doing this, but you're saying move my arms. I'm moving my arms, but I'm not moving. And I think that the fear then prevents me from saying, okay, well, what do I need to be doing differently? And just kind of saying, well, I tried. That didn't work.
Yeah.
Where with the gym, I'm clear and I'm confident. If I do this, I will get results. There is not a doubt in my mind. And that applies to other people as well. Like, I understand the process. I understand the pieces and the principles underlying it. Whereas with this, I feel like I don't have that clarity. I don't have that understanding. I do the actions splashing. I'm doing the actions. Nothing, I'm moving a lot, but nothing's actually getting accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm this analogy, like I'm loving how we're using it, because I got a bit of an understanding of going to the gym too. So I know if I'm doing weights like this, it's super different to like fully engage,
Yes.
fully engaging. Like I've seen people on the weights machine and their kind of core is off. So
Yes.
I'm kind of getting, like, what I'm getting from you, Jordan, as you're explaining this, I'm getting a sense of, sure, you may have been taking the actions, but without that full presence, without that really engaged core, perhaps maybe cutting your workout short.
Yep.
And it comes back to, what you said about the stubbornness. It's like, if I don't understand it, I'm not interested in doing it. And so if someone's coming into a workout with a half heart and they're not engaging everything that needs to be engaged, it's
Yep.
not going to happen.
It's not. And I've had clients like that.
Yeah. So, and the other thing that I want to point out is you mentioned this positive feedback.
Right.
Okay. So I got two thoughts on this area that I'd love to get your feedback on. So there's different ways that we can get this positive feedback. So one is we take an action and we generate an inquiry, or we create a client. Like, oh, that's great positive feedback. But before either of those things happen, something I've come to learn is that the first level of positive feedback has to come from ourselves. So I'm wondering, how positive are you being with your feedback about the actions that you're taking? Because again, if I'm seeing you doing this, I can't imagine that your self-talk is like, oh, buddy, I love your technique. You're doing so great. I can
Yeah.
imagine your self-talk is like, oh, why am I doing this? Or so yeah, I don't know. What do you get from that concept of positive feedback? That we're so hungry for the third level, which is an inquiry or a client, that we don't realize that we are the ones that are in control in that first level, that we've got to give that positive feedback.
Yeah. I think that historically that's been very true for me. And it's something that I have started to pay some attention to recently in it, and really being like, okay, well, how many courses do you have to take before you start to say, maybe I'm the thing that's in the way here?
Yeah.
And especially with so as I've gotten into content creation lately, as a means to both provide value and to, generate clients, I realized that as soon as I started it, I was like, okay, I made a video and then there wasn't fireworks. And immediately I was like, oh, this is stupid. And so what I've been working on doing lately is loving the process of going into it. So again, with the gym, I love the process of improving myself. It just makes sense to me that this is what I do. And as I'm experiencing the discomfort, I'm like, I know that I'm doing this correctly, and this is going to
Mm-hmm.
lead to this result. And I love that I'm challenging myself. I love that I'm pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. I love this. When it comes to like business, though, um, I don't. To talk about the inner talk, it's like, yeah, I did it, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it's like, I
Yeah.
don't know,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
And I think with that, there's a lack of commitment and lack of conviction behind the process. So like the process is there, but there's not the fuel to really give it the life that it needs.
Yeah. And it's super powerful to own that, Jordan, the lack of conviction behind the process.
Mm-hmm.
Because how can you have a result there?
You can't. It does not
Yeah.
happen.
And it's interesting because I'm wondering, what are you trying to prove by coming in and doing a process with a lack of conviction? It's like it's coming back to that stubborn kid in the classroom. It's like, this is bollocks. And if I do
Yeah.
it with a lack of conviction, I'm gonna prove that it's bollocks. Like, I don't want to do this. I'm gonna sabotage it right from the start.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just take a moment to reflect, okay?
Yeah.
You talked about a number of courses that you've done. Like, for me, there's always a moment when you've done a number of courses and then you're kind of like, as you said, how many courses do you have to take to realize the kind of common denominator in the fact that none of this stuff is working? So then there's a moment when you're like, right, let me reflect and let me see what's one thing that I can take from all of these courses, like one thing that is the thing that I could allow myself to believe in, and then use the workout method, like the gym training method. So if you were to just take a moment to reflect on all of the courses and be like, what one strategy has sort of stuck out to you, or what's the one strategy that comes to mind? And then what if you were to act like a gym bunny, but with this business strategy? How would that look?
Mm-hmm. The answer actually came to me fairly quickly. It is first providing value, first coming from a place of I'm going to give before I receive. To me, that spiritually just makes sense. I really believe in living that way,
Yeah.
and um, creating creating content that is valuable for people for the sake of giving value, not for the sake of I need, give me, give me, give me, give me, but from this place of I love you, and I'm going to provide this for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that space allows the conviction to come in, where I can unattach from I didn't see this immediate fireworks results. I didn't go from couch potato to six pack in 1 week. And yeah, it's like for the sake of doing it. I like it because for the sake of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, like, again, I can feel how this idea of giving, providing, offering value, like that hits your spiritual thermometer, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the click, isn't it? Because often, and I can relate to this, I've taken business courses where I've been taught a strategy and I'm just like, I can't do that. That goes against my spiritual thermometer.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a practice that aligns with how you feel. So there's the click. Okay. So now let's take this practice. Like, that's your gym workout. Now, how often does that gym workout need to happen for you to be able to achieve, the weight level that you want to achieve for the
Yeah.
bar or whatever, like the
Yeah.
6-pack? So if that was your workout, it is creating content, providing value, giving, how often and for how long does that need to take place?
I would say it 5 to 6 days a week for sure. And I don't know the timeline. And you know what? That's an interesting point that is causing me issue. If I want to, so for example, with the gym, as you know, a lot of stuff happened. I really burned out. I went over 4 months without going to the gym. That's like the longest I've done in like over a decade. But when I came back, there was no question how long it was going to take me to get results, because I'm confident in that. I'm like, if I know deep down, if I do this even for a month, I am going to be in this space where I'm very fit. I'm really in here. I know that the result is coming.
So you're saying a month for the gym?
For me personally, yes.
Yeah, great. Look, like because again, what we're, and you know this about the brain. If there's an uncertainty in the brain, it's like, oh, here's an unknown. And so what's so great, what we can do with the brain is we can transplant a belief from one area into another area. Like, I love doing this. So you can literally transplant the experience of a belief of, I know if I go to the gym 5-6 days a week for a month, I'm going to have the result.
Yeah.
So now I want for you to imagine having that feeling, having that self-talk with, I know if I create content, if I give, if I serve 5 to 6 days a week for a month, I'm going to create, and then you tell me the result.
The answer that comes is benefit. I'm going to create benefit in the lives of others. And there's an interesting paradoxical feeling that came with that. On one hand, it's like, this is what I want to do. You know, I'm doing all of this. I am slaving away. I'm pushing myself past my limits for the sake of doing this, for the sake of benefiting others. And on the other hand, I'm not convinced that that's going to pay the bills. I can create this content, I can provide the value, but unless that also converts into the specific results of client acquisition, then I have been spiritually fulfilled and my tummy is empty because there's no food. And yeah.
Yeah. And this is so interesting, Jordan. Like, let's look at it. You've got this belief, because you're saying it to me, this is what I believe, that I'm spiritually provided for, or I'm spiritually fulfilled, but my belly is empty. So as you and I know as a coach, when we believe something, we take unconscious action to prove that belief.
Yes.
Now,
totally.
what was interesting about your language? So I said to you, what result will you create? 5 to 6 days a week, creating content, giving, providing value. And you said it will be of benefit to others. Okay. Now that doesn't put food in the belly, does it? We know that. So there's a real difference between having it's going to be beneficial to others versus, and at the end of that time, I will have a client.
Yes.
So I just want to point that out. It's like there's still this sort of this, whatever it is, and you've mentioned the fear, to give yourself a tangible expectation. And that goes back to what you said right at the start, experience at the gym. You said it was experience and tangible proof. So again, just notice how the brain is kind of being a little slippery and tricksy here to say, I'm not yet ready to allow myself to believe in a specific tangible result. What's the worst that could happen if you say to yourself, I'm going to treat these tasks as a gym workout. I'm going to show up every day and I'm going to have, I'm going to have all of the reps, all of the routines, as you know, with a gym workout, it's like how many exercises on this machine, kettlebell stuff, like weights, reps, like that level of precision. If you had that level of precision of business action, what stops you? What's the worst that could happen if you have, and after a month equals one client?
The worst that happens, totally worst case scenario, is that it's not enough to survive on, and I say, I gave it my best shot, and I stop. I say, that's it. No more coaching. I'll go get a job doing something. Maybe I'll go back to training or be a waiter or something. I don't know.
I'd like to invite you to play a game.
I love games. Let's do it.
For the next month.
Okay.
So the first component of the game is to create a gym workout. So again, for me, like when I go to the gym, I'm like, okay, so today's an arms day and an abs day. Okay, today's a legs day and an abs day. Today's a cardio day and a stretch day. So I have it all detailed out like that. So what I would love for you to do is to create like a week framework that you would have for the gym for every single 5 to 6 day workout. And then to go to that framework and to put like a counterpart as a business action that could be. So, an art, like, off the top of my head, I'm like, okay, instead of doing an arms workout, that's my going onto LinkedIn and messaging people in my network, striking up a conversation. My abs workout would be half an hour creating some content that I then post online. My legs workout would be sending 5 emails to people I know, asking them to refer me. So like, you've got all of your components. So some of them you're going to repeat, some of them will be one-offs. But throughout the week, you've got literally that level of detail of the business actions. And you do that for a month with the minimal expectation that at the end of that month, you will just have one new client. Like I love to set that expectation really low.
Right.
But you really honor having the focus on a tangible result, as scary as it seems. As much as your brain wants to kind of fog it and say, oh no, well, let's just benefit people this month.
Right.
So how do you feel about creating a workout, having an expectation that there will be a client at the end of this workout, and then you can share it? You're in the right no matter what community. You can share your workout schedule with us. Tell us the time frame, give us the end date, and we can be there supporting your weekly workouts. I can also take a look at the schedule and be like, that could be more specific. Or if you're like, Gabs, I need a legs workout on Thursday and I just can't think what it could be. So, I can give you some tips. But how about we create a business fitness workout equaling one client at the end of a month?
I think that sounds like a nice goal. It's tangible. It's specific. I would love your input on the translation of what are the actual actions. Because I think about things like messaging people, and there's some internal resistance around it. I think it feels icky to me, but that's also something that I need to overcome, because it's an integral part. It's being like, I really want to get fit, but I also don't want to touch a weight. Like, what?
Yeah, you see it, right? You see it. Like I'm just loving this analogy. Like that's it with the messaging. It's like there is, it's like if you haven't run and suddenly you get on the running machine, it is going to stink for the first week or two. Because you've done workouts in many different areas, there's a pain barrier. and then you know what's on the other side of that pain barrier. So yeah, I get the icky feeling. I had it the same.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm happy to give some input as well. Let's just take a moment to reflect, Jordan. Like there's been lots of there's been a lot in this conversation, but what are you seeing now? What are you seeing in terms of the problem? Like we sort of uncovered some layers here. What would you say you've seen now that you weren't able to see before we started the conversation?
The lack of conviction in the process, and the lack of belief in the delivery of the result. And they kind of feed each other. It's this loop that just keeps going. And having a clear game plan, a clear workout plan that says, here is what I'm going to do, and the result is going to be this. And then committing to it with full conviction. Because without that full conviction, even if you go through the actions, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is going to lead you to success. It's an integral part of the accomplishment, is to show up with the conviction and the belief that this result will come to me.
Yeah. Let me just take a moment to thank those of you who have been watching alongside us. I really hope that you have been able to learn from this process. And Jordan, thank you for being so vulnerable to allow this coaching session to be aired on YouTube. And those of you who are like, oh my God, this is something that I think I would benefit, then come and join the Right No Matter What community. Share your insights with us too. Share what you've learned, share any challenges that you might be facing. Jordan, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.